Hi, this is On Air, and I'm Klara Syrewicz. Africa has become strategically indispensable to Russia. Today we'll see why it ranks so high on Moscow's foreign policy agenda and how Russia's power grab is unfolding. In our report, we'll focus on the mounting geopolitical tensions around the Red Sea. If you want to see which countries matter to Russia, check the travel log of Moscow's Deputy Defense Minister and his merry companion, General Andrei Averyanov, head of the GRU Unit 29155, a covert outfit known for targeted killings and destabilizing foreign governments. The grand tour began in Libya, where they met with warlord Khalifa Haftar and his son, Saddam. Next came Burkina Faso, where coup leader Ibrahim Traoré feted them, followed by stops in the Central African Republic and Mali for talks with junta commanders. Later, they also met General Salifou Modi, responsible for the recent coup in Niger. Several of these leaders have since returned the favor with visits to Moscow. What do all these places have in common? Rich natural resources, tempting military sites, and a shared history as former Wagner strongholds. Former is a stretch, since the operations continue under a new sobriquet and a new command, that of General Averyanov. Since the mid-2010s, Russian foreign policy in Africa has relied on the unofficial deployment of military personnel and political technology services, a wonderfully Orwellian phrase, dished out to local rulers under the auspices of the Wagner Group. The mercenaries, designated by the US and the EU as a transnational criminal organization, were led and funded by Russian oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin, a close Putin ally, until he staged a mutiny in 2023 and, predictably, met an untimely death. The Russian state swiftly brought Wagner under GRU control, rebranding its multi-billion-dollar operations on the continent as the Africa Corps. Hello, Nazis. Or less officially, the Bear Brigade, which, come to think of it, would be a great name for a gay bar. And just like before, these bears offer African governments regime survival packages in exchange for predatory exploitation of natural resources. They're now entrenched across the continent, from Libya to Sudan, Mozambique, Madagascar, the Central African Republic, Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, Namibia, and Niger. As reported by UN panels, everywhere they operate, there are widespread claims of brutality, including mass killings and sexual violence. In Mali alone, a UN report found that at least 500 people were summarily executed by the new leadership forces and Russian-speaking paramilitaries. If you want a glimpse of how lucrative mercenary work can be, look at Horatiu Potra, a Romanian with alleged Wagner ties and pro-Russian leanings. His wealth came under scrutiny when he ran for mayor in the Romanian city of Mediaș. He owns dozens of properties, 10 kilos of gold, $500,000, €250,000 in the bank. And that's just what he declared. In 2023 alone, he earned over €1 million from physical and specialized training. Unsurprisingly, in countries where Russian firms and ex-Wagner forces are most active, ties with the West are steadily deteriorating, a rift Moscow strives to widen. Russian disinformation and propaganda usually lay the groundwork for their presence. The Internet Research Agency, Russia's infamous troll farm founded by Prigozhin, churned out social media campaigns glorifying Wagner, accusing the West of plundering Africa, and sowing distrust of Western health campaigns. Last year, Russia's state news network launched the RT Academy to train local journalists, and Sputnik rolled out its Africa service. Also, since late 2021, the Russian Orthodox Church has established over 200 parishes across the continent, another soft power lever in Moscow's growing influence campaign. In the Sahel, a real testing ground for Russian disinformation, Moscow spent millions shaping public opinion, fusing anti-colonial discourse with calls to abandon Western-backed institutions. Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, once stalwart members of the G5 Sahel alliance, severed ties and pivoted towards Russia. In Mali's capital, the press agency African Initiative was revealed to be a front for Russian intelligence. By exploiting deep-rooted anti-French sentiment, Moscow's disinformation campaigns hastened France's military withdrawal, clearing the path for Wagner to move in. But Russia's most effective campaign has unfolded in Burkina Faso, a former French colony now ruled by Ibrahim Traoré, whose cult-like image is propped up by Russian AI-generated propaganda featuring Trump, Beyoncé, and a miraculously released from prison six-fingered R. Kelly. Piling on the fantasy are influencers like Franklin Nyamsi, who tells his hundreds of thousands of followers,
Vladimir Putin,
former KGB officer, came to fight in Africa in the 1950s, 1960s and 1970s. He participated in the fight against Western imperialism.
Putin was born in 1952, never battled imperialism, certainly not as a toddler, and likely never set foot in Africa before 2006. But somehow the myth lives on.
The narrative that Russia is pushing is that Western states remain fundamentally colonial in their attitude. It's very ironic because the Russian approach, which is to isolate these regimes, capture their elites, and to extract their natural resources, is quite colonial.
Trump accelerated America's retreat from Africa. Europe redirected funds towards Ukraine, and even China, once the continent's top investor, is pulling back amid debt crises and domestic woes. But Russia, along with the United Arab Emirates, is eagerly stepping in to expand its economic footprint. The continent has vast mineral resources, a growing population, agricultural potential and borders 2 seas and 2 oceans. What's not to like? Russia has seized control of gold and diamond mines in the Central African Republic, along with major gold sites in Mali and Burkina Faso, Africa's 3rd and 4th largest producers. In just 2 years, it extracted $2.5 billion in gold, money likely funding its war in Ukraine. Russian state firms like Nordgold, DIG, Wagner/Bears, Guard, and the Emirates, keen on being a global concierge for African trade, legal or smuggled, funnel cash to them, as the gold trade flows largely through Dubai and is worth around $30 billion. But Russia's real prize in Africa isn't gold. It's critical elements like cobalt and lithium, which power everything from smartphones to missile systems, and above all, uranium. According to Euratom, the EU still relies on Russia for 24% of its uranium and on Niger for another 15%. For France, that translates into 65% of its electricity. Meanwhile, after a Wagner-backed coup, Niger's junta has shifted towards Moscow. So that's a lot of vaults resting on very perilous transactions. Ironically, Europe is betting on nuclear energy to break free from Russian fossil fuels, yet many supply chains for uranium are already under Russia's thumb. As for the US, although President Biden signed a bill banning Russian-enriched uranium, it still accounts for roughly 35% of America's nuclear fuel. And then there's the arms trade, which gives Russia a formidable presence in Africa.
We already have a significant order book totaling over $12 billion.
According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Russia supplies 40% of all weapons imported to the continent. The downfall of its ally in Syria has only pushed Moscow to expand its presence in Africa. Libya is central to this strategy, offering alternative military ports and bases on the Mediterranean, as well as a powerful tool to destabilize the EU through its control of migrant smuggling. Russia has eagerly aided little Saddam Haftar in trafficking weapons, drugs, fuel, and people. But African nations may soon grow disillusioned with their newfound friend. According to an Interpol investigation, Russia lured hundreds of young women from 20 African countries with promises of education, only to force them into slave labor, producing Shahed drones dispatched to Ukraine. Despite widespread coverage of the scandal, the scheme is ongoing. Meanwhile, Rosatom has spent years trying to establish a uranium mine in Namibia using in situ leaching, a method that involves pumping acid into the ground to dissolve minerals, then extracting the solution. It's highly toxic to the environment, especially water sources. So far, the Namibian government has kept deep-pocketed Russian firms from bribing their way to approval, but it's probably a matter of time before someone cracks. Last month, anti-Russian protests erupted across the Central African Republic, once Moscow's poster child on the continent and home to thousands of its paramilitaries.
The Russian forces are not there to fight the jihadists. They're protecting the regime in various mining sites.
They like their operations there to be cheap and to be particularly beneficial to them.
Critics point to the hypocrisy of Western powers, particularly the US and France, for backing long-serving African autocrats while denouncing those who, like Traoré, side with Russia. Their talks of democracy ring hollow, especially now that US aid is withheld or comes with many strings attached. Yet Russia's track record in Africa, assisting coups and juntas, deepens instability. Amid the resulting power vacuum, militant Islamist groups are on the rise. This chaos is the soil on which Russia can thrive, boosting its arms sales and denying public accountability for resource extraction. In the end, ordinary people get trampled. As the African proverb goes, when two elephants fight, it's the grass underneath that suffers. The Red Sea isn't just a shipping lane. It's a significant pressure point on the global economy. And it seems the Houthis have found the nerve. They've turned access to the Suez Canal into a laboratory of anarchy, where international trade rules or military interventions by global policemen falter.
Once a crucial artery for 12% of global trade, the Red Sea has since become a battleground where commercial shipping clashes with modern asymmetrical warfare. At the heart of this crisis are Yemen's Houthi rebels, who, under the guise of solidarity with Palestine, have turned missile launches and drone strikes into a billion-dollar extortion scheme.
The enemy is escalating further in the Gaza Strip and continues to commit crimes of genocide, using all means at its disposal against the Palestinian people in Gaza. Consequently, we will continue our operations and are heading towards escalation.
The result? A sharp plunge in Red Sea shipping traffic, down over 70%, and a rerouting of major cargo vessels around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding time, cost, and carbon emissions. Western shipping companies, wary of paying off militants, are ceding trade routes to more pragmatic competitors, particularly from China, who appear less squeamish about striking back-channel deals with the Houthis. The Economist suggests the global economic cost could reach $175 billion annually.
They have high-tech equipment. They have been well-funded and supported by Iran. Iran has made very clear that they are backing the Houthi rebels and they will not stand any US-led intervention in the region. So, this is not going to be something that is overcome easily or simply.
The Red Sea has long attracted foreign powers. The US, China, and others maintain military bases in Djibouti, a sliver of calm in a volatile Horn of Africa. Meanwhile, countries like the UAE, Russia, and Turkey vie for influence via port deals and military access across Sudan, Somalia, and Eritrea. In Sudan, Russia is eyeing Port Sudan for its first Red Sea naval base, while the UAE is backing rival forces to secure its own maritime interests.
Regarding the agreement on the establishment of a logistical support point for the Russian Navy, it has been signed and is in the process of ratification, as you know.
Turkey and Qatar have staked claims as well, using commercial port agreements to build strategic ties. America's position in the Red Sea is increasingly ambiguous. Under Donald Trump, The US ramped up its naval presence to strike Houthi targets, yet it is reportedly weighing a pullback from Djibouti and has ordered the retreat of US military personnel from Somalia. Even if the Gaza conflict ends, the Houthis have little reason to stop. Their business model, disrupt trade, demand payment, repeat, is profitable, sustainable, and eerily easy to replicate.
Soon, not just shipping, but other industries like air travel may find themselves in a similar bind. But that's a topic for another program. I'll see you next week.